When spies are caught, especially in African countries, how would you want them to be treated? A French soldier who had been sent to Burkina Faso to protect the country turns out to be spying on the country after receiving suspicious information. The French authorities have denied the allegations, who claim they are baseless and without legal merit. Would the French ever stop mingling in the affairs of these countries? Well, we are here to find out, but before we continue, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the new tourist channel to get first-hand information on what is happening in Burkina Faso. Since the military junta took control in September 2022, Burkina Faso and France have been on a path of diplomatic retreats. The military leaders have made a conscious effort to separate Burkina Faso from France. This incident demonstrates how the soldiers France sends are more of a threat than a source of protection. However, how has France responded? Have they acknowledged the spy, and what actions are being taken against him? Damien, a former French legionnaire who is now a security consultant, was detained by Burkina Faso's national police on August 12 in Ouagadougou on suspicion of espionage. This arrest serves as a sobering reminder of the West's continued meddling in Africa, long after colonial rule ended. Damien's arrest, alongside the discovery of sensitive information about Burkina Faso's security situation, reveals a broader narrative of Western manipulation cloaked under the guise of economic cooperation and security support. What does the West, particularly France, want from Burkina Faso? Ibrahim Traore has made severe accusations against France. According to Traore, Benin and Ivory Coast, two countries in West Africa, are helping France destabilize Burkina Faso. Traore declared that France had established two covert military camps in Benin with the intention of attacking Burkina Faso. He asserted that these facilities serve as a hub for terrorist operations against Burkina Faso on a regular basis. The French military has responded by refuting the allegations. The military refused the existence of military bases in Benin. Bear in mind that this is not the first time that Traore has dealt with spies in his country. 4 French agents have been detained in Burkina Faso for almost 9 months by Captain Ibrahim Traore's anti-French administration. Several official French sources refer to this scenario as a hostage situation, which shows no signs of ending. The 4 men were arrested in Ouagadougou on December 1, 2023, 48 hours after their arrival. They had been sent there as part of a cooperation with Burkina Faso's National Intelligence Agency, which has continued despite high tensions between the West African country and France since Captain Traore seized power. These 4 technicians were in Burkina Faso to carry out a computer maintenance operation for the benefit of the French embassy. They were arrested by members of Burkina Faso's Directorate of State Security, suspected of espionage and destabilizing his regime. Relations between France and Burkina Faso have been considerably degraded since coming to power. We should note that Burkina Faso has also suspended several French media, including Le Monde, TV5, and Radio France Internationale. The transitional government of Burkina Faso suspended all distribution of media associated with French news outlet, Jeune Afrique, in the country as of September 25th of last year. This suspension followed a previous article on the same website in which Jeune Afrique alleged that discontent was growing in Burkina Faso barracks. No amount of fact-checking can compensate for careless journalism. The notion that fact-checking by news organizations significantly reduces the dissemination of false information is not backed by anything. Uninformed people rarely get convinced that their thoughts are wrong even when they do fact-check them. For news organizations, cutting back on input is the only practical way to combat false information. Untrue information is distorted by out-of-context elements, and the share button makes it easy for false perceptions to spread quickly among a wide network of people. Ibrahim Traore is attempting to stop this from continuing. It is due to misinformation like this that spies are sent to the country to gather information. In April, Burkina Faso's military leaders expelled 3 French diplomats, accusing them of subversive activities. A letter to the French embassy dated April 16 stated that the 3 individuals, 2 of whom were designated as political advisors, were declared persona non grata and given 48 hours to leave the country. It didn't go into detail about the charges against them. The diplomats' expulsion was a result of their meetings with representatives of civil society. All this is happening at a time when the insecurity level in Burkina Faso is at its peak. There are frequent reports of terminations in the country. Only around 60% of the nation is under the jurisdiction of its government, and the violence is still growing. Similar to Mali, the country's relations with France deteriorated. The United States' relations with both countries have gotten worse. The Biden administration halted the nation's free trade access to American markets after the coups. However, Moscow is seizing possibilities that are aligned similarly in the Sahel. It has welcomed the military governments in Burkina Faso and Mali, offering them help with information operations, diplomatic backing, and security assistance. After Mali's second military coup, Russian military advisors were deployed in the nation. Moscow has provided the nation with a strong detachment of mercenaries to fight Islamist groups, primarily through the Wagner Group, which is now known as Africa Corps. Leaders like Traore are strengthened by Russian influence because it gives coup leaders legitimacy in regions where the United States and the West are unwilling to work with local leadership. Rather, Russia is the one that gives these coup leaders financial support, military backing, and even personal safety. Note that Russia has even created a video game to let people know what is going on in the Sahel. This online game, which was released in July and is sponsored by the Russian propaganda network, African Initiative, allows players to assume the role of Burkina Faso's captain Ibrahim Traore. Combating the influence of the former French colonial power is the goal. The game is known as the African Dawn. This game, promoted by Russia's propaganda networks, begins on 30th September 2022, when Captain Ibrahim Traore takes power in Burkina Faso against a backdrop of rising anti-French sentiment in Africa. The aim is for players to make the best political, economic, military, and diplomatic decisions, and perhaps dominate the world as Charles de Gaulle, Winston Churchill, or Joseph Stalin. The difference, and the advantage to friends of the Kremlin, is that African Dawn plays with contemporary geopolitics and the popular disdain for echoes, and the West cultivated by the breakaway coup leaders of the Alliance of Sahel States. Gamers can opt to represent the Burkinabe opposition, Nigeria, Chad, France, or the US, or take on the roles of Captain Ibrahim Traore. His Malian counterpart is Assimi Goïta, or Vladimir Putin. According to African Initiative, one of Russia's propaganda networks on the region, players will have to create a sovereign Sahelian confederation or return the countries to their colonial past. At this point, would you not like to try this game out? We can see that Russia is using video games for geopolitical messaging as a new tactic in the ongoing information warfare. It illustrates how influential internet platforms are becoming informing public perceptions and stories, especially for the younger generation. From the look of things, we might soon have games that detect spies in the Sahel. As earlier mentioned, Moscow is welcoming the military governments in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, offering them help with information operations, diplomatic backing, and security assistance. After Mali's second military coup, Russian military advisors deployed in the nation in late 2021. Moscow has provided the nation with a strong detachment of mercenaries to fight Islamist groups, primarily through the Wagner Group. It made weapons deliveries in the middle of 2022. However, the insurgency is spreading and Mali's security situation keeps becoming worse. The complicated geopolitical environment in Africa is exemplified by the circumstances in Burkina Faso and Mali. Although Russia aims to use Western resentment as a springboard for influence, this tactic may or may not work. While Russia may undoubtedly see Burkina Faso as a pawn in its anti-Western chess game, the situation is far more nuanced. Whether Russia can effectively address Burkina Faso's security problems is still up for debate, and its presence could make matters worse. Younger people, too, have grown more disgusted with the established political class throughout much of West and Central Africa, even with those who have been duly elected to government. Several factors contribute to this disillusionment, including the lack of formal employment opportunities, and even unofficial ones for graduates and less educated people, the perception of high levels of privilege and corruption among the elite, and anger over France's continued influence in the numerous nations where it was once a colonial power. Instead of France to right its wrongs, they are sending more spies to these countries to continue spreading lies. If you were in Traore's shoes for a day, what would you do to these spies? Let us know what you will do in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Turn on notifications too so you get notified whenever we upload videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.